The defensive line, I think, is going to be the core strength of this team just in general.
Oh, absolutely. One thing that's really going to help is you're going to get a year 2 of defensive lineman Justin Scott, the 5-star who flipped from Ohio State. Didn't play a whole lot last season, which makes total sense considering the guys that were in front of him. But he was able to develop and he learned. And now you're in year 2 of a guy like Justin Scott, and you're expecting big things from him. I imagine that he's going to be an integral part of that defensive line, paired next to the Reuben Bains and the David Blaze and all the guys that are going to be in this very deep and strong, and I imagine a defensive line that's going to wreak havoc all season long. And I think Justin Scott might be the number 1 or number 2 guy on that defensive line that's going to make the biggest impact. Other than Justin Scott, do you see someone else in there that's like the guy in that defensive line?
Can I pick the obvious one?
I mean, you can't pick the obvious one.
I mean,
You
like
got it.
I could pick the obvious one in Reuben Bain. I mean, just being healthy this year is going to make such a big impact for him. I mean, dealing with the injuries that he did last year was hard for him to kind of get some consistency going. But we know who this guy is. We know he could be a game wrecker. I mean, we saw it his freshman year, and you saw a little bit in spurts when he could have made plays last year. Like I mean, clearly the biggest impact is going to be having a guy who, if you look at draft boards, is probably already up there in terms of a guy who has flexibility inside and out. It can kind of get to that passer, be a rock solid defender on this defensive line. And when you're going to have guys rotating through with this Corey Heatherman system, having just a stable rock that you can just, getting him refreshed during the game and just saying, if it's third down and you need it, go after the quarterback. Like just having that level of player who, if things go well this year for him, could end up at the top of draft boards. Like I think is so important, so impactful. But aside from that, I'll play a little bit, I'll pick somebody a little bit not necessarily under the radar. It was probably Miami's biggest he was Miami's only big addition on the defensive line through the portal. David Blay. I mean, making the jump. He is making the jump up to Power 5, which he didn't necessarily play on the, he was playing at Louisiana Tech, not the biggest school, but he showed some flashes in certain games when they got to move up to some Power 5 talent. Arkansas was one of those games where he had 5 tackles, two of them for loss, a sack, and some pressures in there too. So I think that's a guy, big D tackle in the middle who can kind of make some plays for Miami and coming in. Hopefully you can want to see that. Hopefully he can make a name for himself too and potentially move up draft boards if things go really well from him, making that jump from the group of 5 to the Power 5 level. Just a guy to get. Yep. Leroy. Can we bring up Leroy real quick? Called him out too. Yeah. David Blay from Louisiana Tech. Could be a dog for Miami this year as a huge man in the middle. Wreak havoc if Miami really needs to.
Yeah. One thing I really like about the Corey Heatherman system is he loves to just rotate guys in and out consistently, as you mentioned. And one thing that's going to help is that Miami's deep. Miami's really deep. They have a lot of young guys too. And the hope is that you might see a lot of younger guys come in and be playing the way that you want them. Like you're going to be able to see some of these guys get action. I'm not sure. I won't guarantee you that a guy like Hayden Lau is going to be playing big minutes, or Marquise Lightfoot, or even Armando Blunt. But I can guarantee you that you might see them at some point because of the way that Corey Heatherman plays these guys. He rotates them consistently. He wants them to be energized. He wants them to be fresh. I would almost think of it in the NFL terms as Robert Saleh when he was with the Jets. I know obviously it didn't go well, but his defense was great. One thing that really helped with his defense was that he was consistently rotating his guys between the Quinnen Williams and the guys like that. And that actually really helped the Jets defense when they were good at one point. So I think that Corey, that you can expect that at Miami, and it's going to allow the defensive line to be rejuvenated, refreshed. And when you have a big third down, a big fourth down, or we're in the fourth quarter and you need to make a play, that this is where the guys are going to be fully energized and are going to be really healthy for the big moments. And that's why I love the way that they have the defensive line. I think it's one of their deepest parts of the team. And one of the guys I think that will really, really help it is their recruits. Because they did such a great job in the recruits, and also the guys they're returning, like an Akeem Mesidor, who was so awesome for Miami last year, leading the team in sacks and TFLs. That's a guy that you need to continue that production. Because when you had last season, you had a guy like Reuben Bain that was hurt. You had guys that were hurt. You banged up because it was a long season, and a guy like Mesidor stepped up consistently. when guys were either, you didn't see them as often. Mesidor was there the whole way, and if you can see him put up similar production, I mean, this D line has the absolute limit to compete with the Texas A&Ms of the world as the best defensive line in the NFL in college football.
I mean, like, kind of harping on what you said, just having just a consistent rotation of guys. I mean, we saw it in the NFL, on the NFL level in the Super Bowl. Like, having just being able to say, oh, we're just gonna sub one guy out. Well, Jalen Carter come back into the game and just you know go get the quarterback. I think it's just so important, and just having if guys can just play 5, 10, even if some of these young guys can just get in for maybe throughout the entire season 100 snaps. That's 10 less snaps that a guy like Reuben Bain has to play on like a first down or a second, or like just in the middle of the game when the game, when the game is more in motion. You want to kind of rotate more and like kind of just being able to have guys fresh when that fourth quarter comes in these games. If Miami's going to play more of a ball control offense, if Miami's going to play more of a like more of a ball control offense, rely more on their defense, having a defensive line that can through itself between whether it's through the run by the stopping the run or getting to the quarterback, just slow the game down because they're constantly creating havoc through the backfield.
Yeah, one thing that's really gonna be, I would say, probably the biggest thing we might even see this week 1 when you go up against a team like Notre Dame that is bringing in a different quarterback, or you have a team that's gonna really consistently rely on an elite running back, which Notre Dame does in their case with Jeremiah Love, who I'd argue is the best running back in college football. Having a defensive line as deep as Miami does should, with the system that Heatherman plays, where he likes to stack the box, should really help Miami in a game like Notre Dame week 1, where you have so many guys that can stack the box. If you have so many elite level defensive linemen, you should be able to contain Love. I'm not saying stop Love for 50 yards, but I'm saying contain Love so that he's not going for 300 yards like the way that Georgia Tech ran all over us last season. So being able to at least limit it in a way that isn't as bad as it was at times last season, where it felt like you just couldn't get a stop. That's the biggest thing. If the DBs, which we keep talking about, if they make their plays, it'll help the D linemen make their plays and should help them. They should be able to be working in tandem in making them feel like, we have like a consistent defense, because last season it didn't feel like that. It felt like players were confused a lot of times, that Mario had to use timeouts because they looked that they were in the wrong spot. I remember seeing that in the Duke game. They looked they didn't know what they were doing for most of the time. It felt like there were big plays, and it was because the guys were not communicating properly with either the coaches or with other players. Everyone looked like they were doing something different. And that was a huge problem, I would say, under Lance Guidry that needs to be addressed under Heatherman. And I think will be, considering with the track record that Heatherman brings.
I mean, and just going to what we were talking about earlier, like just basically preaching the basics and drilling into the fundamentals is just so important just to start. Like we talked about low missed tackle rates, and then it's a boring stat, but just simply making the tackle before you're not wrapping up when you need to, getting them to the ground so it's not a big gain. You can just, stop the bleeding on these drives so they don't have to go like the Notre Dame drive, not the Notre Dame drives, the Georgia Tech drives. They lasted forever. They took clock, and like if Miami is not going to have an offense that's going to 3 plays, 2 minutes, touchdown like that, like if it's not going to be that type of offense, you need a defense that's going to force punts, force field goals, force like end the drive before they score, or just not have drives that take up so much time from the opposing offense. And yeah, just those fundamentals through Corey Heatherman's system, that getting back to basics and not trying to be cute on the defensive end is just so important.